The year is 2024. In the northeastern corner of Madagascar, a bay curves into the land like a cupped hand. The water is warm, green near the shore, deep blue further out. Fishing boats drift past a small island in the harbor. Local kids swim between the hulls. Nothing here suggests that 300 years ago, this quiet inlet was the most dangerous anchorage on Earth, and the closest thing to a free republic the colonial world had ever seen. Diego Suarez Bay. Population today, around 100,000. Population in 1700, a few hundred pirates, their wives, their children, and the Malagasy allies who chose to trade with them rather than fight them. No governor, no king, no flag that any navy in the world would recognize. At the height of European colonial expansion, when England, France, and the Netherlands were carving the globe into property, a loose confederation of outlaws was running an experiment in self-governance on an island 5,000 miles from the nearest European capital. They called it Libertatia. Or someone did. And whether it was a real place or a story told by desperate men who needed to believe freedom was possible, the fact that we're still asking that question tells you everything about why it matters. Wolves who made rules. It begins with failure. Specifically, the failure of legitimate employment. The 1690s are a brutal decade to be a sailor. You sign on to a merchant vessel or a naval ship. You work 18-hour days in conditions that would be illegal to impose on a farm animal. And if you survive the scurvy and the storms and the casual violence of your officers, you're paid. If you're paid at all, roughly enough to drink yourself unconscious for a week before you have to do it again. Desertion rates are catastrophic. Naval records from the period show that the Royal Navy loses somewhere between a quarter and a third of its enlisted men to desertion every year. They don't leave because they're cowards. They leave because the deal is insane. Some of them end up in Madagascar. The island sits at a perfect intersection of trade routes. Ships heading from Europe to India, from India to the Red Sea, from the Red Sea to the African coast, they all pass within raiding distance. The northern harbors offer fresh water, food, timber for repairs, and crucially, no colonial authority to answer to. The Malagasy kingdoms of the north are powerful enough to negotiate with outsiders, but not interested in subjugating them. A working arrangement develops. By 1695, there are an estimated 1,500 pirates operating out of Madagascar's northern coast. They are English, French, Dutch, Portuguese, American, and mixed-race sailors who have decided that the social contract offered by their home countries is not worth the paper it isn't written on. They fly no flags. They answer to no admiralty. And slowly, chaotically, they begin to build something. The rules they make are rough and practical. A democratic vote before every major raid. Equal shares of plunder, with extra portions voted to the wounded. No man can be flogged without a trial by his crewmates. Captains can be removed by majority vote, and frequently are. These aren't the rules of idealists. They're the rules of men who have been on the receiving end of unchecked authority and decided they'd rather die free than live obedient. The man called mission. Here is where history gets complicated. In 1724, a writer named Charles Johnson, almost certainly a pseudonym, possibly Daniel Defoe, publishes a general history of the pirates. It becomes the defining text on Golden Age piracy, and embedded in its pages is a story that reads like a dream someone had after reading too much philosophy. Captain James Mission. French-born, educated by a radical priest named Caraccioli who filled his head with Enlightenment ideas before Enlightenment was fashionable. Mission captures a ship, converts his crew to his vision, sails to Madagascar, and founds Libertatia, a colony where all men are equal, slavery is abolished, and governance is by democratic council. He even invents a new language, a Creole meant to dissolve the national identities that divide men and set them against each other. The problem: no contemporary record outside Johnson's book confirms Mission existed. No ship's log. No merchant's diary. No letter home from a sailor who met him. The Malagasy oral histories of the period, which are detailed and reliable on many subjects, do not mention him. Historians have searched for 2 centuries. Nothing. And yet, the structures Johnson describes, the democratic councils, the equal share systems, the abolition of slavery among pirate crews, these things are documented elsewhere. Not as utopia, as practical pirate governance. The articles of pirate ships from this period, the ones that actually survive, read remarkably like the rules Johnson attributes to Mission's fictional paradise. So what was Libertatia? A real place that left no records because the people who built it couldn't write or didn't want to be found. A composite myth that collapsed real practices into a single heroic narrative? A piece of deliberate propaganda, written by someone who wanted to prove that a better world was possible by pretending it had already existed? Blood, gold, and governance. What is documented, precisely and painfully, is the money. Between 1690 and 1720, Madagascar-based pirates capture an estimated £6 million in goods and currency, roughly £800 million in today's terms. The single largest haul, Henry Every's capture of the Ganges Sawai in 1695, an Indian Mogul treasure ship carrying pilgrims back from Mecca. The plunder is so enormous, gold, silver, jewels, cargo, that Every's crew retire on it. Some of them end up in Madagascar. Some of them end up in New England, where colonial governors take bribes to look the other way. The money creates stability. Stability creates something that looks, from a certain angle, like society. Pirates who retire to Madagascar by land from local Malagasy rulers. They marry into local families. This is not metaphor. These are recorded marriages, children, dynasties. Some of them become powerful enough to influence local politics. A pirate named Abraham Samuel becomes a local king in the southeastern bay of Tolenaro. Another, John Plantin, rules a fortified settlement at Ranter Bay with a council of advisors and a code of conduct for his men. These are not Libertatia. They are rougher, more violent, more contingent. But they are also real. And in their rough reality, you can see the outline of what Johnson was reaching for. The possibility that men who had been discarded by civilization might build something better with the pieces. The irony is almost too neat. The pirates who rejected hierarchy spent their retirement recreating it, because governance, it turns out, is not optional. The question is only who holds the power and by what right. The fire that erased everything. It ends the way things like this always end, with superior firepower and a change in economic incentives. By 1720, the Golden Age of Piracy is over. Not because pirates suddenly became fewer or less skilled. Because the people they were robbing got organized. The East India Company pressures the British government. The British government sends warships. The Americans, who had been quietly buying pirate goods for 30 years, suddenly find it more profitable to be legitimate. The exits close. The Madagascar settlements don't fall in a single battle. They dissolve. Pirates accept pardons and go home. Others die in small skirmishes with naval patrols. Some disappear into the Malagasy interior, absorbed into local populations, their names forgotten within a generation. The physical traces are almost nothing. A few stone foundations near Diego Suarez that might be pirate-era construction or might be something else entirely. Malagasy oral traditions that reference strange pale settlers who came, traded, and vanished. A handful of graves without names. And the book. Always the book. Johnson's general history goes through 4 editions in 4 years. It is read by sailors, dock workers, political radicals, and philosophers. Rousseau almost certainly read it. The image of Libertatia, men who chose freedom over comfort, who governed themselves by consent, who abolished slavery a century before abolition, sinks into the imagination of an era that is about to explode into revolution. Whether Mission existed or not, the idea of him was real. And ideas, unlike settlements, don't need stone foundations to survive. Closing. What Madagascar's pirates built, or what someone built in their name, was fragile, violent, and brief. It lasted maybe 40 years. It left almost no physical evidence. Its most famous product might be pure fiction. And yet the question it posed has never gone away. What would people do with freedom if they actually had it? The pirates' answer was messy and human and contradictory. They abolished slavery in principle, while sometimes practicing it. They voted on everything and then fought about the results. They built a utopia and filled it with the same flawed people who had failed everywhere else. That's not a reason to dismiss what they attempted. That's the whole point. If this story stayed with you, the real version, not the romanticized one, drop a comment with what surprised you most. And if you want more history that didn't make it into your textbooks, you know where to find it.